Have you ever personally experienced discrimination toward your race in the workplace?
In the workplace, I can't really say that I've been discriminated about my race, but I would say that there have been situations where I've had to deal with an unprofessional event, or maybe somebody maybe wasn't speaking to me properly, or just acting unprofessional. I can't really pinpoint and say that it was discrimination. I usually don't jump to that, and I assume that there may be some other misunderstanding, or just maybe the person is having a bad day. I try not to assume that. That's not one of the first, or anything that's really on my list. I usually just think the person's being unprofessional, and it may be for other reasons. So.
Have you ever seen discrimination toward others in the workplace?
Again, I think that I have definitely seen unprofessionalism, and in some situations I believe that it was, there was some discrimination underlying it. It could be just a conflict between personalities and maybe the way people think, but I do think that there have been times where I have seen that.
Do you think racism can be stopped?
I would like to say yes, and I am hopeful about it, but with that comes, I think that there's a lot of ignorance, and a lot of people who are maybe not as accepting, and it may not be grounded with, for racism. I think it's just that generally the reason that it continues, obviously because we've come a long way, but it's obviously still a problem because you're asking me about it, but so you'd like to think so, but I think that there's still a lot of people who are, and I think there's people who are basically ignorant about race, and I think I don't see it ending soon. I would like to say so, but unfortunately it's still happening.
What would you do if you saw racism?
So if I saw something, I am usually quick to stop and say something, whether it's racism or kind of bullying, or just saying saying things that are inappropriate or making fun of people. I think it's really important to say something, because if you don't say something, you're adding to it. Not directly, but you're still. It's like you're accepting it if you don't say something. So you have to stand up for other people and just do the right thing, because it could happen to you, and it's just not the right thing. So I think by not saying something or doing something, it's like you're adding to it. You're not caring for the other person. So.
What are the gender roles in your family?
So in my family, I would, I'd like to say my dad was from a different generation. He was born in the 20s. He survived, the Great Depression. So he, of course, he was in the military. He worked in railroad for 20 years and retired. My mother was a homemaker when I was growing up, but then when I was in high school, she went back and got her diploma, and then she was a massage therapist, so she did work later. When I was younger, my mom was at home. As far as for the family, I have a brother. My sister and I, we both went to college. We all have careers, so the next generation, we're all have careers and have gone to college. So I think that's my family before didn't get to. My dad didn't get to go to college. He went to he enlisted in the war, and then worked. So that's my family.
Have you ever been discriminated against for your gender?
For my gender, I don't think so. Again, I may have been, but I guess there's something about me or my personality. I don't like to jump to discrimination, and I try to say, well, if I didn't get something, or if I didn't earn something or get a certain promotion or something, I try to be more self-reflective. I don't want to be ignorant and say that doesn't happen for gender. I personally don't don't recall any, like, feeling any gender discrimination. Did you say at this workplace or ever?
In general.
In general. I mean, I did have a situation where when I was in the military and I was in a class that was all males. It was like something having to do with mechanics and electrical, and I remember feeling a lot of pressure because I was the only female, and it kind of bothered me the way they acted. Like I didn't, but that's a really extreme environment where you are the only female and there is gender, inequality.
Do you think that you are treated differently for your race and gender?
For my race and gender, I don't think so personally. Or it may just be myself that I don't let things bother me, or maybe I just really haven't had anything like directly affect me. But I am a female Hispanic person, and I do have a career. I did go to school, but I do know that not everybody does. Like, for example, on my mom's side of the family, her children are the only ones who went to school, but my cousins and other people haven't. And I do know that there is discrimination about like race and assumptions and gender. But
what do you think can be done to stop gender inequality?
Okay, so for gender inequality, both in school and in the workplace, I think we've come a long way as far as gender inequality in certain subjects like sciences and arts, and that is trickling down into some of the fields like science fields and in general. But I know that there's still some inequality in careers in certain workplaces. I just think it has to go with equal treatment, and that's is how you treat each other in a workplace or in school, and also it's also like a top-down effect. Like people in work shouldn't just not tolerate any. I mean, it's just equal. If you just treat everybody equal, then you solve that. It's like if this person is doing X, Y, and Z, and that would get them a promotion, great. It doesn't matter what gender or it should be merit-based.
Is the way you were treated in the workplace different than the way you were treated in the community?
No, I don't think that the way I'm treated at work is different. I also was not, where I work now is not where I was raised. So maybe here in my new neighborhood, I know that I'm probably the anomaly. Like, I think I'm the only Hispanic person on my block or in the neighborhood, and I see it when I see the mothers dropping off their children, and I do worry, like, oh, are my children going to be able to see themselves in this, this group, and what do I need to do to, make sure that they see, who they are, their identity. But I haven't been treated differently. Like, I'm aware of things, but I don't think I've been treated differently. And then, of course, where I was brought up, I'm from Texas, so a lot of, other people are Hispanic, half Hispanic, half American, so I don't think that ever affected me. But I don't want to be ignorant to that just because I have, this is my personality, but I've seen other people who, for example, my best friend whose parents were both Mexican, but one had like Polish ancestry, and he didn't look Hispanic, and her mother was Hispanic, and I've heard comments, so it wasn't directly, but indirectly or very close. So I'm lucky that I don't feel like I've had that, but it's happened very close. So.
Do you think genders will ever be equal?
I hope so. This is, here or in the world, there's different cultures, different societies, and I hope so. And I think a big thing with that, like as far as equality in the workplace, that's one thing. Yeah, I definitely think so. But in general, I think there should be just respect for each other. What really concerns me is certain cultures that don't respect the rights of women. So yeah, on a smaller scale and a bigger scale, I hope that there is more equality and fairness.